developed a handbook, Academic Literacy, Academic Honesty. Technology, Amy, has made it easier to cheat. So how widespread would you say it is right now?
Well, I think students do use the internet and take sources without attributing in the way that they should, but they don't always know that they're doing it. Sometimes it's a skill issue rather than a dishonesty issue.
So they feel insecure, and so they feel like the ends justify the means? Is that how they justify it?
Possibly. Students are under a lot of time constraints. They're under a lot of pressure to perform well. They have other activities. They're involved in jobs. And so they want to do well in school, perhaps to keep scholarships or to get good grades. And so they turn to the quickest resource possible.
Is there a fine line between sort of celebrating the amount of cleverness that they use to get to where they want to be and realizing that this isn't necessarily a desirable way to get there?
Yes, absolutely. We try to distinguish between out-and-out plagiarism and cheating, which is the deceptive intent to pass off someone else's work as your own, versus something a little less nefarious called patch writing, in which you take words and structures and ideas from other people and try to translate it into your own words, but don't attribute it correctly.
Other than catching someone red-handed, is there a way to, after the fact, detect that someone has cheated or is cheating, other than the obvious ways of catching someone?
Well, in terms of writing, we start to look for language that becomes obviously not a student's own patterns of writing or their skill level in grammar. And as far as exams go, sometimes you can detect cheating in a pattern of answers.
So what's a constructive way to deal with this problem? Obviously, you don't want to throw the person in jail,
no.
But this isn't a desirable activity, and that needs to be emphasized as well. So what are constructive ways to deal with it?
Well, we have a tiered system at Westminster. So if a faculty member finds that a student has cheated or plagiarized, depending on the severity, they can either ask a student to repeat work, they can fail them in a particular part of a course, or they can fail in a course entirely. If that's the student's first offense, it's reported to the Dean of Students. It goes on record. And then after that, penalties become more severe, from suspension to expulsion.
In that piece we just watched, they implied in there that students are getting the idea from watching Wall Street. That seems like an excuse to me. Is it possible that an example from adults is impacting students' behavior, or is that just an excuse?
I think it's just an excuse. I think people have always cheated and always been dishonest. Perhaps we see more publication of it now, and students want to use that as a way to justify what they're doing, but really there's no justification for cheating.
So if students are feeling like they're under tremendous pressure, is there a constructive way to help them deal with that stress, other than feeling like they have to resort to cheating?
Absolutely. And in fact, that's what the handbook was largely about. It's a faculty resource, and in it we talk about ways to design a course and design assignments so that they are scaffolded or broken into chunks, and that lets students complete things in small segments, and it gives a faculty member a chance to overlook the assignments in small segments and make sure that students are doing their own work all along instead of leaving it till the last minute.
Do you have any personal experiences with cheating that maybe serve as are instructive of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. I'm an English instructor at Westminster as well as a librarian, and so I've had many examples of students who patch write, which is, of course, using other people's sources but not attributing them correctly. In that case, I usually try to sit down with the student and help them rewrite the paper with correct attribution, but I've also had examples of students just buying papers off the internet and submitting them as their own.
So that shows intent.
Yes.
to cheat. That's circumventing the system as opposed to trying to work within the system. Is that a big difference?
Yes, absolutely.
From what your point of view is?
Yep, absolutely.
Does it reflect? Have you known any kind of consequences as a student has gotten into the real world? Have you heard of that kind of obvious impact?
Not from Westminster, but I do know of places where people have lost their jobs or people have had academic cheating go on their long-term records, and that will impact your ability to get into grad school.
Okay. Amy, we're out of time now, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Tell us about academic cheating. Very interesting topic. When we come back in just a bit, Doug